Hey guys, what's going on? This is Excalibur, and we are here for a special presentation. This is a developer Q&A with Elion Game Studios, and today we have Hummel of War and we have Taelyn. What's going on, guys?
Good evening.
Good
Hello.
evening, guys.
All right, everybody can hear me okay? Lord, you can hear me all right? Make sure everybody can hear. Volume's good for everybody. Loud and clear. Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So, yeah, guys. So welcome. We're basically going to be going over the experimental 10.6, the CPU changes, and then some special new features that are going to be announced here. So I'll go ahead and introduce Hummel.
Hello, yes.
Yeah. So go ahead and give us the some of the new updates that we have here with the experimental patch.
Yeah, okay. What we have done in the last week basically is a lot of major and minor changes on the CPU tier system. So those that followed the forums might have seen we've changed the values of the different tiers a bit around. They are no higher in general. So basically for the first three tiers, and a little bit extra on the tier fours, specifically for capital vessels. And we will adjust a few minor stuff, so like RCS and thruster balancing and stuff like this. There's of course a lot more to do on that, and maybe some noticed me already that the weapons and the turrets also might be a bit too cheap now in CPU, in terms of CPU. So we'll look into this next. What we've done is, of course, bug fixing. Thanks to everyone who is reporting constantly into the experimental forums. It's very important because we are two or three guys who are doing QA, and a few more testers in the close alphas, but we cannot find everything. So thanks a lot again. Can't be expressed enough our thankfulness to all this that report bugs and so on. We added a few new things, minor things. For example, for the CPU tiers, as you all know, the whole blocks and so on, they cost CPU, and we will add, or we plan to add, a feature with a multi-tool that you can basically decide to downgrade individual blocks to a previous level. So, and last thing I did on this was to add carbon composite as the lowest block type on the I'd call it metal material. So you go from carbon composite to steel, to hardened steel, to combat steel, and so on. And you will plan that you can always go. You can also go back. So if you decide you want to save a few points, you will be able to do that in the future patch. I don't know if it will be in 10.6 already, but this is planned. So we have laid the ground for it. What we've done as well is we changed a few things in terms how planets are lighted due to sunlight, because you all know we are working on the multisolar in the background always, and for the next big version possibly as a bigger release. This is not yet ready, but we are making good progress on this. So currently the change has been, for all that are interested in this, that the light of the sun was defined by the planet, and now we have it turned around a bit, and you still define the light of the sun in the planet, but when you are in an orbit of this planet, the sun is still the same color. So if you define the red sun, you will have a red lighted orbit then, so to give it a bit more atmosphere. And then we added something that at least I or we think is, yes, some way might have weight for this. So currently you remember that we added to dock HVs to an SV to be able to move HVs around basically. And we thought, why not expand this further? And as this a community request, we opened up the docking a little bit more, far as we could go is that you can now dock the same type of ship to each other. So you can now, with the next update, you will be able to dock an HV to an SV, bullshit, an SV to an SV, a CV to a CV, HV to HV, basically. So this same to same docking will be, a bigger addition to the next experimental, I think, already. So you could basically do your carrier, capital vessel, and have a smaller specialized vessel and dock it to your carrier. Then this will be possible. And because I got asked this, docking a CV to a base will also be possible then again. So that's basically the summary of the last week, in short.
I realized I forgot the downward thrusters on this thing. Nice. So yeah, basically, yeah. So basically, we could now dock CVs to CVs. So this gives you a lot of options. Just the first thing I built right away was this little micro miner that basically I would have right on top of the my regular CV, so that you could carry around a miner and it doesn't have to, your main CV doesn't actually have to be your miner. It could be this one, and then because of logistics, you're able to just kind of move that from one CV to the other.
Yes.
So I guess the biggest elephant in the room right now is what's in the top left corner of my screen, and that's what version we're on here.
Yes, we've made a change to alpha, to call it patch alpha 11, for a second reason. I cannot reveal yet because it's still work in progress. So adding the CV docking and those was big step, and as an addition to CPU and flight model and so on. So we thought this patch might also be called a full version now, and we are aiming for a little extra gem to add, something to try out. Not really a big feature yet, but something to try out, and we might detail it this week or when we are coming closer to the release, because currently everyone is working on this to make it at least workable, so everyone can, or everyone who wants to can use it or try it out.
As the model is asking at the moment, hopefully docked things can't use the turrets anymore. The same rules that applies with docking at the moment with an HV or an SV to a CV, then the HV and the SV, the shield is disabled, the weapons are disabled. The same rules count for the other vessels as well. As soon as you dock something, the shield will be disabled from the docked vessel. You can't use the passenger seat or the cockpit to move on with it, and the weapons will be disabled as well.
Yeah, Fragolot, yes, no shields. So
no shields,
you can build a fully modular capital vessel. We have already seen a few concepts in the closed alpha testing group, and it's quite awesome what you can do with it. But the risk is, of course, your main carrier CV, when it has shields, it will not protect what you add to it, because otherwise this feature would be a bit overpowered. And as Taelyn said, it's the same rules for every docking system currently. So if you dock something to another, the docked vessel cannot have fully functional turrets, shields, or so.
Yeah, so basically I'm demonstrating here a small SV being docked to an HV.
Yes, tactician, yes. It's also, of course, balancing. It has a few technical side effects, but it's, of course, balancing. Yes. So we want to avoid also that you have a lot of, as it happened in the past, you just set up basic HVs as additional turrets on a CV.
Now you guys notice that when I shut off the main HV here that I was using with the SV docked to it, that it no longer docks to the pad, and that's because you can't do a daisy chain docking system. All things have to dock to the main dockable CV or base. So you can't dock an SV to an HV and then the HV to the base. Both the SV and the HV need to be docked to the base for now. So
yes, this how call it matryoshka problem. We're not. Let me put like this. It's not impossible to solve this, but it might take quite some time to do this. So not promising it, but maybe in the future this could be solved as well. For now, it's as we already have it for the SVHV docking or the other dockings. You cannot have, as Excalibur said, vessels docked to another vessel that you want to dock. So that's also a reason why we'll rework the HV for space a bit, though you can move this around now without problems. And yes.
yeah, I mean, I think just this alone gives so many building options. You know, for the longest time, when the HVs got a big buff, when they got the combat steel, when they got the clone chamber and the medic station, it really made SVs less and less functional. And really, they don't. You know, a lot of people love SVs. Sci-fi is very SV fueled and everything. So what I think this does is it actually gives you the ability to upgrade your SVs with HV capabilities legally. Which, you know, basically you have an SV, you could dock an HV that has a clone chamber, has a medic station, you know, has these little minor things that you wish you had on an SV, and it can literally be a modular add-on to, you know, and you could there's tons of developers, there's tons of designers that, you know, can make it look like it's really part of the SV, like almost an armor shielding or, you know, something on the back or, you know, whatever, right? But it just opens up a whole lot of possibilities for functionality between the different vessels, especially in solo play. Yeah, exactly. Thunderbird meets Empyrion. So yeah, I think it's really cool, and I think it's a really good start to some really interesting new builds here. We're gonna get a lot of really cool stuff, I think, in the future as far as the docking goes. I mean, there's endless possibilities. I mean, you know, just, you know, and it all really moves around gameplay. It's how you play the game is how that function is represented. So if you're an SV person, you know, you're going to work, you know, around building a really cool SV that has multiple uses and that can, you know, maybe carry a small miner or something like that. If you're more an HV person, you know, you can carry around maybe a really small little fighter SV on your HV that could, you know, handle different tasks or, you know, allow you to go airborne or, you know, if you're into mining, you can have a production CV that has modular storage capsules that, you know, you can move back and forth and, you know, to do different mining or do different transport tasks, or, you know, so just the possibilities that you have now in regards to designing things that, you know, previously we were simply demonstrating and showing as just purely an RP thing. You know, you see these really great CVs that have these, you know, fake capsules, and then when we got weights and volumes, we got the logistics system and the extensions, and you actually had the container extensions that looked like capsules. But now they could literally be their own ships that can move back and forth and dock to other things. And I mean, imagine having your regular cargo CV, you pull it in, you have a modular cargo extension that then gets undocked, and then you have like this other CV that could then come and, you know, it could be docked to that and it could move it onto planet. You know what I mean? So you no longer have to bring your really big CV into atmosphere. You can leave it in space, and you could have a smaller workhorse CV to actually carry the cargo to your different bases on the planet. So
yeah, absolutely. So maybe also on the level of the HV, you read a lot that you what do you do? You build a quite large HV to carry the load of your mining, and currently you cannot escape this if you want to use HV. And now you basically can build a more nimble, the drilling part and what is moving all this thing, and then have a trailer on it. So you keep your trailer outside and are not hindered by it, and you can go back and just dock them together and get back to your base or get picked up by by a ship nearby. So this is all the so I hope this is made good use of, and I'm looking basically forward, or we are looking basically forward to see all those designs of modular stuff in the workshop, because we try to achieve the same for bases, but it's because bases are static, it's a bit more problematic. Of course you can build it disconnected, but it's still the same base, and maybe this will change in the future with whatever, maybe we are the logistics network or so. But with docking of vessels being modular now, I think you can really make use of this mechanic now, where before you had basically to fake things then. Player portals.
I think this is a little over CPU. Just had player portals. There's teleporters in the game.
Yeah, portals and teleporters, that's a bit of a problem. Okay, I'm trying to describe it in short. You have to set up a given target for the teleporter. So this is very specific, a play field and a base or so. And this does not work when you go into random gen. So we need, currently, this is how it works currently anyway. What needs to be done is basically a complete or total rework of this feature. So it's not like you need to set a target or so, like at the moment, but the teleporter has a list of targets that he can reach or it can reach. So like if you have two bases and both belong to you and it's not out of range, then you can use a teleporter. But I'm afraid this teleporter or portal mechanic is not really on the list for now. But it's still, the concept is still there, so it's not forgotten. Yeah, going back to base load for gas, exactly, yes. We are aware of this. If we have the time to do it, we will also work on this, because I personally think this is a great way of doing it. Maybe it's a bit like I'm a big Stargate fan or Enterprise and so on, but yes, I think teleporters are cool. Yeah, not with ships. No, I think ships, it's a bit more problematic even as they are moving. But yeah, you never know.
As Noam is asking about the items that you need for the CPU extenders, they are implanted actually already. You can buy them from a trader, or you can find them in the red and the purple looking alien containers and POIs. But the drop rate was very, very low. We adjusted the drop rate in the next update, and we're waiting on some test results if it is better. But they are there actually already.
Does anyone has tried to buy this from the traders? Is there any issues? Or if or maybe as a question, do you guys think they are too costly compared to what they do? Yeah, they should be listed. Yes, we had a small bug in the config in the previous version, so it could have happened that you did not find it. But we should, in any new game, you should be able to find it at Bertram's, at Servant Corp, and Quantum Star, which is a new trader in the Starter Orbit. Yeah, loot has been addressed, I think. We've increased the drop chance a bit. We need to check if it's better now. Drone base in space. Base has space has basically drone bases already. It's only a technical definition. And what's the second question with the base attacks in space? Yes, the base attack function is currently is limited to planets, but we also plan to have this opened up to space, literally. Yeah, of course you can sell other stuff, right? So I try to find a good point on this on the cost. So, but it's good to read that it's not considered too costly.
Sorry, Hummel. So where's the trader?
The
You said it was in orbit?
It's where are you in the?
I'm in survival. I'm in survival. I'm in the Akua outpost Akua orbit.
Oh, did you start multiplayer?
No, single.
Single player. Then on the upper level should be. Which I've never seen this base spawns here.
I don't know what it is there. Outpost Akua orbit?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not a trading station.
No, it's not trading
I think
station.
so.
Yeah, it's the only thing in orbit.
Maybe open the map.
Yeah, I did map. That's all that shows up. Man.
Okay.
Is there one on planet?
There should be. If this is a starter.
This is the old. No, this is the old creative mode base that we had before you changed it with the new Titan ship and base. This is the old. This is old creative mode. It's already got replaced.
Oh, we're in survival. This isn't.
You did. Did you just start it? Did you just use the command from creative mode to survive?
No. It's a survival game, and I went into creative mode in survival.
Okay.
Then this is strange. I've not seen that happen. Maybe you can. Yeah, this pretty much looks like a survival game. Can you go in space? Yeah, there should be a trading hub here from Polaris.
Yeah, it's just a civil hub. Warehouse, logistics hub. Trading station, there we go.
Yeah, Walter White will do this. Are there plans to fix the crafting system so that is less of a click fest? Yeah, that's why we already have the automatic constructions. Or what do you mean with ClickFest? Orbital 2K. Maybe you can expand on that.
Oh no, my reputation's too bad. Oh no.
That trader should have it. Bird traps.
As Carly D, yes, we planned to add more traders to Pure Eyes of Syrax and Polaris. Not only have them in the trading station, but then we started with Alpha 10.6, and yeah, everyone got something else to do. I still have the plan to change maybe after the patch release. Will we go through the Pure Eyes and move traders where they make a good fit, or basically where they make sense. I could also think of like you have the power station and you have a trader there and he's selling power modules and buying Promethium, stuff like this. So it's a bit better integration into context of the POI. At least that's what I'm aiming for.
Type in the console faction space rep space local space poll, and then you can cheat the faction rep xcall. Then you don't have to hunt.
Ah.
There are cheats for everything.
We even have a help command to reveal them.
Yeah.
Okay, so faction space rep space local space full.
Without the CM.
I'm out of CM, yeah.
No, without CM. Faction space rep local, and then poll from Polaris with a capital P, and then a space, and then a number, the number rep you want to give. So type like 2100. Faction rep local poll from Polaris, and then the number.
Will there be a loot all button when you use logistics after coring and placing your own core into a poll UI?
Remove the
No.
full.
Got it.
New block shapes. Which block shapes do you missing to Moodle? I think we have only 120 or so. It's a bit complicated to say. If you use, maybe go to the forums and drop me a picture or so with an outline how the shape should look. I think I can pick it up from there and see if you can add it. The Alpha 11 will also add 16 new block shapes. Reload all option. Yes, we talked about this. It's still on the list, but lower priority. Could use this often, yes, as well. WoW 91 NPC crew hiring guards and so on. Yeah, it's of course a topic.
Okay, so to construct the CPU blocks, you need the what? The large optonic bridge and the large optonic matrix, right?
That depends. The large ones are for the CV and the base, and the small ones are for the HV and the SV.
Okay.
Large optronic bridge is tier 3, and the matrix is always tier 4.
Oh, okay.
So you need only one of those for each. One type, not one, but one type.
Okay, so the smalls are over here. Got it. Yeah, so they're in here.
Yeah, good.
And you said these are random finds as well, too, so you could sell them.
These are
well.
random finds.
And the drop rate on the random finds, we increased it with what it is at the moment in the experimental work.
Orbital 2K, no, you can craft in increments higher than 10, basically 100 and 999. The one is shift, and they use STRL and so on. I need to look it up. I have not used it a lot, but of course you can go with higher increments. This is also a topic, an ever-going topic, that we aiming to add like info buttons on most of the device, so players can click on it and see what options they have. So like we did for the new LCD stuff, explaining a bit more, because as you see it, I've worked on so many different things that I totally I'm not aware what's exactly the command. Or I use it blind and do not even notice what it is. So if you ask me and they say, "Oh, what's exactly the button combo on it?" Yes, but you can go 10, 100, and 1,000, so 999.
Yeah, so basically, you know, some people are saying that they don't do the trading. I also don't do trading, but you are able to find these in the game, like you're able to find, you know, other devices and stuff in the POIs. So I mean, it is obtainable without having to deal with the traders, from what I'm understanding. So
Pardon, sorry, I read it in chat. So if Yeah.
So it's fine. I mean, it's essentially like everything else. I mean, it's a
Yes.
find, but it's also something that you could obtain from selling lots of whatever else you want. So for the
Yes.
people that like to do
Yes.
the trading, for the people that don't like to do the trading, it's obtainable for both.
Perfectly fine. Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe the trading and the economy itself, it's not that developed. So we see a lot of work that needs to be put in this. So what I said earlier, the basic thing is to start to build up the trader economy a bit better. So currently we do only have traders that sell pretty much everything in only a few spots. So I think we need to spread out this a bit more. So it's interesting to not only capture a POI or crush it down and loot it, but if you're friendly with Syrax or Polaris or whatever faction we add in the future, that you can go to a certain station and get certain stuff from there which is not available elsewhere or so. So this I think is a first step, and then there are a few other features like maybe you can see where some items are traded best or trading routes or something. There's still a lot to do on this one. Yes, but currently in its infancy, it's still an alternative because you can simply sell stuff you find anyways and then get your CPU extenders. So it's important that not only in looters.
Yeah, in GRG. So that's what we were explaining basically. You can't craft the parts themselves, but you can obtain those parts as a random drop or as a purchase from a trader in order to make the CPU blocks for the different tiers. For tiers 3 and 4. For tiers 1 and 2, 1 is just basically the core. So that's tier 1. That's your default tier. Tier 2 is basically craftable at the I believe it's the large constructor or the advanced constructor.
Large, I think.
Yeah, so the large constructor, you would basically take 2 cores, and then I think it's a flux coil, and
Yes.
that
Yeah.
crafts a tier 2 CPU block. So
Yeah, I'm sure. Yes, everyone wants to craft everything. Yes, I think maybe a point on this currently, our tech tree and the unlocking and all the craft, it's not that flexible as we envision it. So I think those things that are currently collectibles, like the optronic bridges and so on, these have quite a good chance that they will be craftable at a time when we do away with the tech tree and go into research or skill tree and these. As in this context, it's a bit more manageable. But currently, we just have a few resources, and if you unlocked one device, you can basically craft then everything related to this. So there's not much of progression, I'd call it. And I think this will change then with the research. Whereas we basically can give some of the stuff to be constructed, maybe take some time for the search, but maybe this is the take on this end to basically remove at least some of the collectible. Maybe there's still alien collectibles, so we might add that are only collectible, but like weapon kits also, maybe these are basically I think they will be craft or researchable and then craftable.
I'm not seeing them in the large or advanced constructor. Is it only
Did you unlock
base?
them? Okay.
That could be it. Yeah, that could be it.
Possibly it's not unlocked.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah. New game. Yeah. All right, fair enough. So yeah, 1 and 2. So what you guys have done with the numbers, as far as going over kind of the changes in the numbers here. You can see within here, whereas this was way over before, this now falls into a tier 4 CPU. But as far as what I've done, as far as testing, it's very achievable to do a tier 1, and in a CV, I can get let's go this first. The tech tree is what you kind of have to go by, right? So with the actual block, right, the extender for the CV, the tier 2 doesn't even unlock until 10. So that would mean that basically unlock level 7 CV is really the only design path you have to build a CV before 10 anyway. So it makes more sense that you're going to design something to be a tier 2 CPU CV. So that's basically the 500,000. The 500,000 limit, which a lot of CVs, early CVs, fall into very nicely. It doesn't take a whole lot once you remove your RCS and stuff from your previous builds. But really, designing forward, this isn't going to be a big problem. It's going to be based on what you can unlock, and it coexists very nicely with the tech tree and what you're able to get at that level anyway. So beyond that, when you're looking to start building these bigger CVs that have more function and more space and capability and whatnot, that's when you're also going to be progressively seeing the end of your starter planet for the most part. And everybody plays differently, and I understand that, but for the general playthrough, once you get finished with your starter planet, you're more or less working on building your first CV and then leaving the planet with said CV and whatever SVs and HVs you've gotten there. So that progression, as you lead on to the other planets, you will have already taken out a lot of different POIs. You've probably grabbed a couple of these different devices anyway to get you the tier 3 and tier 4. So, and if anything, you've salvaged enough to possibly buy it from the traders as well. So I think it moves really nicely as far as the survival gameplay of it. And then once you're past your starter planet, you're able to start building these bigger vessels. What you've had previously, what's on the workshop, and whatnot going forward. So. Well, and that's it. It won't be a problem for me. And granted, right? So of course there's still adjustments here, and of course CPU probably isn't for everybody at the end of the day. If your style of building, your style of gameplay is more RP driven, if it's more PvP driven, if it's more, of course there's always going to be exceptions, and it's not mandatory. It's in no way mandatory, so it's not something that you have to conform to. If you're just interested in playing survival with weights and volumes on, with CPU off, that's going to be an option.
Yes.
Right now in testing, I think this is still confusing people. Is in the experimental, it is hard coded in there so that they can get feedback for the experimental. It does not mean that that's going to be hard coded when it goes stable. They've addressed this in the last 2 Q&As that it's not going to be the latest Q&A that it's not going to be mandatory in the stable. So that was adjusted thanks to all the feedback and everything that people were putting out there. So it is going to be optional, the same as weights and volumes, the same as drones, the same as pretty much everything in the game. And then if you want to go a step further and go on the back end of things, you can really code and do a lot of stuff to manipulate your servers to really be anything you want. So this is a development approach. This is to introduce new things into the game in later stages. This is to put the game on a path that's going to be compatible with other improvements and other adjustments. So it has to happen, and it's not mandatory. So I'm totally fine with that. My play style, I enjoy building really small minimalist things that conform to the smallest levels and stuff. That's me. Tactician enjoys building bigger RP stuff that looks really cool, like sci-fi stuff that's still usable in the game. That's him. Jay Randall likes to build the way he likes to build, et cetera, et cetera. So I think these numbers are a broader stroke towards solving a lot of people's anxiety about the previous numbers. Is it perfect? Of course not. But as we said, it's an ongoing development. I'm sure they'll probably change again at some point down the road, but for now, I think this is a lot better than what was previously put out.
And it's also, as you already said, there's a reason why we do not make it mandatory even when Alpha 11 now releases, because we want to gather more feedback from the public. And maybe, as you shown in the tech tree, sometimes we got told that the extenders may be a bit too high or too low on their level that might be currently, and these are all parts that might be adjusted, and that's because we chose that it's not mandatory for the Alpha 11 for everyone, just for those that want to give us feedback on and play it and use it. And we are very keen on this feedback, to be sure, to be honest, because this is a much broader kind of audience then, and maybe different problems also turn up there more clearly. And yes, so we would like to encourage everyone to at least give it a try and not lay to the side when Alpha 11 comes out. So because this helps to develop this further, and as Excalibur said, I think we will do this quite for some time. So same as mass and volume is not completely finished now, and it's not mandatory for this. It's the same for CPU points. So we want to converge this or change this in one of the future or near future versions. But for this, we of course need more feedback. So yes, it's very welcome. Any opinion or feedback on this, or what can be done about this. As we set up a thread in forum yesterday or today, asking what everyone can do with all these tiers, and this is important because we are looking at these builds and say, okay, with the current rule set, players are able to create that when maxing out basically tier 2 or tier 3 or tier 4. And this gives us a lot of feedback where we need to adjust stuff and so on. So yeah, please guys, use this source of feedback or giving feedback.
Absolutely, and it's easier than ever. I mean, with Discord now, you're literally able to post screenshots. You're able to talk directly with the developers so that they can get this feedback right away. It's a lot friendlier than the forums, than these other avenues. But you can certainly use those if you're still comfortable just using the forums. But with the Discord, it's just so much easier to pop in a little bit of text and throw in a screenshot so that they can see.
Yes.
And and I always encourage people, please, try out the experimental. Even if you have, anxiety about it, if you don't feel that you're going to like it, at least give it a shot. If you have negative feedback, that's wanted too, right? In a positive, in a neutral way, let's say that. But negative feedback is good too, because it's if we get enough of that, of the same thing, things get changed, and you've seen that many times in in previous patches. So it just has to be in a way that's received correctly. It can't be,
Yes. Absolutely. So we encourage everyone to also give us critical feedback, but critical on the facts, not on opinions or so, because we cannot work with opinions. So if you say something is totally broken, so yeah, that's an I agree on this maybe sometimes, but this does not help us. We need to know what's broken. So, and then we can work on it. So if someone says, hey, I built this and look, I can add these devices, but for these to add, I need to have the tier 3, which is level that, and I cannot add this before, though this does not make sense. And we will say, oh, okay, then we need to do something. This is feedback based on facts. So yeah, this is something we can work with. You can, of course, give your opinions, but pretty much this is why the forums are there and so on. But of course, there's the fact-based feedback is of course helping us. This is something I can relate to the developers and say, hey, we need to look into this and that. And yeah, this is then very helpful to get things moving.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a very as a game player, just somebody that plays the game. We're in a really cool position to be able to actually have a some kind of input into the development of the game, being in an alpha game. And we have to remember that we are essentially alpha testers, in that we are testing the game. We're constantly playing new iterations of the game as it's being developed, and we're encouraged to give feedback so that they can get that hard data to be able to make the changes. Because 5 or 6 people that are constantly working on coding aren't also playing 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day like a lot of other people are. They're not spending time building huge CVs. They're not spending time doing all these basic things that we think it's a no-brainer. Like, hey, the hitbox on the arachnids are ridiculous, but when's the last time maybe they were fighting in an abandoned base? I don't know. So these are things that you might think are obvious, but to them, they need those redundant hard data feedback points saying, this is a problem, but just make it in a small, it doesn't have to be pages of data. It just has to be a couple sentences. This is the reason, this is why I'm seeing it. Is this normal? Can we fix this? And just keep moving. And if they repeatedly get that, they're gonna look at that on a priority list and say, okay, this is something that's achievable. We could fix this. Let's push it through.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah. And
So
just while we were talking, maybe I have two questions, if okay. I've picked from so someone asked if these patrol ships have CPU extenders. Um, currently not. Taelyn answered already, but I would like to iterate on what I said. We're aiming to make this whole ecosystem of loot and stuff better. So we will add more devices to bases in POIs that you may not find there so usually. So let's example, a spaceport may have thrusters standing around for exchange. So we think we place a few thrusters in this base, then you capture it and you can basically steal those thrusters if you want. So it's more going like this direction. And I think we might also upgrade the patrol ships with CPU extenders possibly, so you can steal it from there if you can. And the ships are too twitchy. I think yes, I said it when we started the stream. I currently trying to find out why this happens. I think we found a reason, and it's with scaling and how thrusters are placed and how they add to torque. And so I think this should be fixed in one of the next version, maybe in the release candidate already. Design docking pads?
Yeah, a lot of people find the current HV docking pads, those small things.
Yes,
they're all
that's something I already noted down on somewhere here. The HV only has this fixed docking pad because currently it's like the docking works automatically, and also the extending of the docking pads works automatically. So if we had these docking pads on HV, it would constantly expand and you could not fly anymore. And this is a problem. So I think we are currently talking about changing the docking from full auto to maybe a switch between automatic and manual, so we can decide. But this has spawned a few side tasks because you need to have this displayed in the cockpit. You need a button and you need feedback and so on. And I think at this point we can consider also giving the HG other landing gear. Currently, it just rules out because how the way the HV works.
now I'm seeing a lot of random questions about that. All kind of have to do with the same thing. Now, recently, you guys got some artists to do some updating on some assets. I would say the hangar door is by far the coolest thing I've seen in a long time. What other equipment are you looking at revamping, updating?
Currently, one of the modders is still working on the CPU extender because currently what's in the game right now is just a placeholder. I hope we have it ready for the release candidate.
Nice.
One of the modelers is working on an entire new thing. We worked sometimes, so like blast doors, real blast doors, with different design. I'm not sure it will be ready for Alpha 11, but we're working on this. The next things will be then again reworks, like hangar doors or so. And I tend, because this is asked a lot, to work on some of the HV and SV stuff to make it better integrate in walls. So you do not have like the armor locker or so you can better integrate it into a tight place, and therefore the design needs a bit of an update. Maybe this will be one of the next tasks of reworking stuff.
Yeah, because a lot of these curved doors and stuff, and you got the centered doors.
These are new, yes. Yes, some players like the new constructors, some hate them. Yeah. It's a different design. Before they were more, I don't know how to put it.
Before they were very blocky, as people said, and a lot of people call them shrinked at the moment. And more like an half block than 2 full blocks. They have a love and hate relationship. A lot of people like them. A lot of people don't like the current looks.
I think it's the same with every design, and even the new hangar does. Some like it, some hate it. What we aim to do is to give sometimes to give choice. If we say we can have the old model in the game, but at some point we need to say it does not fit our goals, how we look at the design and so on anymore. So some need to go, but
Now, what you had brushed over, not brushed over, but what you had initially said in the beginning of your patch notes, you had mentioned that there's going to be the ability to not only upgrade and downgrade blocks with the multi-tool, but the biggest thing that I heard was the carbon composite can now be upgraded to steel.
yes.
That's huge, because honestly, like starter vessels like tier 1 to tier 5, even a tier 7, the ability to cut down some trees and make blocks instead of having to find, like a POI or whatever, pick up ore off the ground and stuff. Now you can literally make something with just cutting down some trees, which is also what you need for the biofuel. So it's going to make starting game a lot easier to kind of get some stuff going. That's really cool, because that was always a big concern of mine, why carbon isn't in that progression.
This absolutely missed out. We when we worked on the idea of having this up and downgrade functionality, I saw why didn't we add this already? So we made it available. So I think these the carbon composite blocks fit the metal progression building material. So naturally as you said, most of the vessels start with carbon composite. And
Awesome. Now, to add on to that with the upgrading, I had asked this in a previous Q&A as far as the repair bays. Are you guys looking at making those, giving the ability to upgrade, like an entire ship of blocks? Like, let's say you have a steel CV, can we then put it on the repair bay and eventually make it combat steel, or make it hardened steel, instead of having to individually go to each block of a CV?
Yeah, this was already talked about. This is more like the concept of the shipyards we had a while ago, and upgrading a ship or completely destroying a ship or salvaging a ship. We plan to do something like this, but not for Alpha 11. Maybe afterwards. Yes, I think this should be doable to some extent.
Yeah, because it'll just really give that console a lot more function and everything. It could be pretty interesting.
It's for if you speak, you name it. If you use a console, it's already possible. So transferring this to the UI is basically the main step. Someone needs to have the time for, and then I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean the coding's already there, right? It just has to be implemented into the interface. Nice.
A lot is UI work, because you shuffle around stuff. You see it with the new HUD for the pilot, and we also need to do new HUDs for passenger and for turrets and so on. And yes, UI stuff is always a bit back and forth. So next is the info panels, like the CPU tab, and we plan to have more of these new values for the flight model, like torque and thrust, split up and more detailed, so you can actually make work with it better. And this needs to be designed. We're currently at it, and yes, the UI stuff is consuming more time, I think, after Alpha 11 even.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do have another question from somebody here. Factions, as far as administrating a faction, is there going to be any additional progression into making that a more detailed interface? Not just instead of just the basic how it is, but you have these huge factions. And
currently there is not really something different than just onboarding someone into a faction and kick him out or so. I think when we take on this, there will be more like community votes and stuff, maybe sub rights, giving permissions, and so on and so on. So we have a pretty decent idea how to do this. Like with everything, someone needs to have the time for this, and currently it's a bit lower on the list. But yes, of course, we have this on the radar already. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, because I mean, instead of people having to set their ships to private, they can, they can assign different ships and different bases to different, different ranks
Yes.
within the factions. So, yeah, it'd be really cool.
The
Okay,
base
cool.
the problem basically is that everyone can have access to the control panel basically.
Right.
When you are in the faction, everyone can, and this might be the point where we need to make a change, so that if you build that base, you are the admin, and you can say no one will touch the control panel. This is a basic feature of this, so to lock others out. So you can say you cannot open the control panel, but you can use these doors or use these constructs, what is already possible by setting codes or so. I think we will iterate on this a bit more then.
Yeah, the other thing would be alliances, because even given the ability to see other alliance members like on the map and all these different things for coordinating different attacks on other enemy factions and stuff to that account would be a nice change.
I think this is a bigger topic. So it's not just adding a few permissions here and there. So we need to approach it on a bigger level.
Awesome. So GRG3D is asking, any new planets, scenery, or in-game music in the works?
In-game music, not yet. I think our audio creative is constantly working on stuff. We have not planned to add new music yet, because planets and so on have not been a focus currently. Our guy who worked on Planet is currently creating a new playfield. I hope to see anytime soon. So yes, this is going forward. And I think when there's multi-solar systems on the horizon, we will of course have more playfield types, or maybe new variants of known playfields. Like we currently have only one snow planet, but I think up to 3 different dry, desert, arid or so. And I think we'll have more variants there, and so on. So this is already basically in the works. It's not the focus currently, because current topic is CPU points, flight model, and so on. But this already in concept phase, I would say. The concepts are ready and already work.
Jay Randall wants new elevators. I mean, yeah, it would be cool to have actual cargo elevators, like movable up and down kind of things. But I mean, I think that kind of brings in more like the rotor piston conversation, like actual movable mechanical parts and stuff. And that was answered in a previous Q&A. Obviously, it wouldn't be Alpha 11.
Yeah, it's not Alpha 11. Yes, elevator. If it comes to those animated stuff, one concern is often colliders. Most things do not work well with vessels and colliders, so you currently cannot push up or bring down a vessel on like an elevator. This is something I personally would like to see. So you move your SV on such an elevator and push it up to the flight deck and so on. It's currently not possible, because I think it's an issue with colliders. So ladders, yes, it's basically we need to add the animation for it. It's a question of time. It's not hurdles. It's just time. As often, this is just a question. Someone needs to have time to do this.
Yeah, I think another concern is the same thing that I've experienced with these new ramps. While they're really cool, you're not really able to get in an HV any bigger than the like a small tier 5. Like it just doesn't have the clearance to be able, because the way it folds up, and I don't even know how to fix it. Like when I look at it, because if you would probably put this underneath your CV, right? But then that means that you're gonna have to
One change
it.
we made on these ramps is to remove this front side element. So it's a bit better, I think, for having these ramps being useful for larger SVs. So I think they need to have they need to be redesigned. So it's currently not something we can just change on these models. I've
Right.
already talked to the modelers to because that, but these need to be redone. Possible.
Yeah, again, I don't really know how, but I'm sure they'll figure it out. But yeah, like if you look here, like this is all the clearance you have is basically 3 blocks. Because you would want to surround this. You don't want to just have that hanging, right? You want to have it flush with the bottom of the vessel. So that limits you to like a 3 high, and really not even 3, because at an angle it's gonna be more like 2 or 1, right? So.
But basically, you could add now as this ramp element is gone, you could work around this a bit more. So
It is good, yeah. No, it is good that she got rid of that.
It's a bit better, but I think it's not that ideal that everyone says, "Hey, yeah, I like it." But as I said, yeah, maybe these ramps were an idea to have it for personals, so for players, so more convenient stuff to walk up, and not really for vessels. We said, okay, let's make it a bit bigger and see how this works out, and to some extent it works. But for having this real being useful, I think we might even consider to do the elevators first. So you have a elevator going down and you have flush space and you move it on top and move it up. So maybe this
That
is
would be cool.
even a bit easier to achieve then, because if you have a ramp and since you lose always clearance in the height, and there are only a few designs that would work on this. So basically, if you look at this ramp when it's collapsed, it would need to have go even more up, and we have a ramp, no, reverse ramp then. So then you have more clearance, and it would also need to expand further. But if you expand further, that makes the ramp flatter and longer, you have the problem that this would also increase the collider. So even if the ramp is not visible, you would have a collider, and this is the second problem why this does not work exactly how envisioned. So as I said, I personally would be a person to say, hey, let's try this with elevators and get the colliders, and would be more awesome to have it move down and then go away than even a ramp. But yeah, my personal opinion. And yeah, as I said, currently it's not something we can simply change on that mods, because those models do not work for maybe a lot of yeah, or how people want to use it, or players want to use it with larger SVs or HVs. It's not we can change this on these models, but we are aware of this. Yes.
Awesome.
External folding letter, yeah, something like this. Yeah, it's the same discussion, because if you have something that is moving, you see it in the ramps and the landing gears and so on. If it's moving, it has a collider, so it needs to have this collider for the full length, and we have not found a good solution to it. We cannot do it. You cannot do it the collide dynamically at the moment. If we could do it, it would help a lot, and then something like expanding stuff would be easier, I think, but it's not on the horizon at the moment. So if we would do the expanding ladder, we can basically do this if we add the animation for the player controller, but you would have the whole collider then down to the ground.
Yeah, so as Taelyn said, radars are planned. Those were explained in previous Q&As as well. So.
Elevators that look like yes, this would be a workaround, but I think devs will not agree on this. If they will do this, they will want to add the proper climbing animation and not just floating up like in the 2001, 10 or so games.
Scarlet's asking about different models of warp drives, and I think that just kind of lends to the thing that there now are artists that are working on
Yes.
replacing the standard assets and the stock assets with newer assets. So I mean, I think probably the most important thing in that, and what I would like to see, would be options. Like Hummel had said earlier, give us the stock one before, give us the new one, give us a couple different iterations, and with the deconstructor, like I wish we had the deconstructor before this last one. You know what I mean? So if there was just options, if it was like you could use the new one, you could use the old one, you could use this new one, or if you guys are just planning on removing all the stock assets, which I assume you probably are. I mean, you don't want to use stock Unity assets in your finished game, but just some different options for ideas, because if you're not going to and I think probably the most important when saying that is to have an option that is like a flush block if possible for most things, like especially in the smaller vessels, like with the constructors and the armor lockers, if they could conform to an actual block shape, so when people want to make control boards and stuff like that, they can integrate these things to where they're flush and they're not having to be an eyesore on their own, I guess, just for building and design kind of RP value.
Yeah, as I said, next for the reworks, next might be we're looking at these HV and SV devices that do not integrate to the walls quite well currently. I think there are a few, like Armor Locker or so, and others like the Constructor or so. They are already built with these cubes in mind, or with the wall in mind. Or the new the CPU extenders should fit into the wall quite nicely. They're not exactly flush, but more like the tanks are. So it's a frame, and you have something inside which you can hide or not, but not like the Armor Locker or the
O2
clone
station. O2
yes,
station.
and O2 station. Yes, they are a bit more. Maybe they are a bit more on the to-do side for the next foreseeable future.
And that's another thing that gets brought up too, is the O2 station for CVs, and why is it 2 blocks? It's actually 2 blocks for HVSVs too. Why the 2 blocks? Why not? I don't understand that.
I'm not sure. I can't say it.
Okay, fair enough.
This is nothing I worked on. So
right.
Basically, some designer or the developer who managed to this said, it should be 2 blocks. So maybe the simple reason on this.
Because like you guys did the vents. I mean, you gave us a lot of really cool shapes for the vents. It'd be cool to kind of see that progression and choices for a lot of these different. And again, I think it's with the artists and everything, I think that's definitely a lot more achievable, because you're gonna have somebody working on that separately from what you guys are doing. Absolutely. So that's awesome.
As you said, we're aiming to replace all the stock prefabs we have. So sooner or later, we'll all have our own designs and stuff in the game. So and on the topic, maybe it's easier to do variants on something like the ventilator or block shapes or such, because it's there are a certain use case that should fit or so. It's a bit harder to have this as a reason for having different, or have a second type of constructor looks or so. Maybe we can do this as like you can build the normal looking constructor, and you can maybe later retrieve to, by chance or by trade or by whatever, a different look. So like look change. So you do not construct it, but you can use different look then.
Yeah.
But it's a bit lower on our priority. First, we will look for all the functional devices that need a replacement or an upgrade or so, and then take care of real variants of in this direction of device like the constructor.
Of course, understandable. And that actually brings us to a conversation I had a couple days ago on a stream, and that is the textures. Now, of course, everybody's always talking about please add new textures, please add new textures. But from what I understand, you guys have only so many coding slots to actually put textures. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. If they replace this texture with a new texture, suddenly everything on the workshop that was that texture is now this texture. that might result in a lot of issues with people. So I understand why it hasn't happened yet. I guess the question is there a path to possibly negotiating around that? Like, have you guys come to a
short answer yes. A long answer, this is basically the same issue we had with the block shapes. You remember we had a limit of first 32, then we could upgrade it to 64, and
Mm-hmm.
then the atlas, it's called like atlas,
Right.
ends, and we cannot add more. So for the block shape, we found a work around it. So we're basically doing this what would lead to a change of shapes in all the builds when we change a shape in the game. We do this back end, so in the config. So what you see in the game currently is um, is an abstract, and this allowed us to sort and reshape and add more stuff as we go. So currently, it's not a problem anymore to add more shapes, because I think we have 8 pages with at least 30 or so, or 64 slots. So it will take quite a while um, to fill this up. And the same is true for all the texture stuff, um, because we apply a certain atlas on a material. As you all know, you have certain textures available for certain materials, and this is because we can only use, I think, 64 slots on textures, and this is limited, and maybe there's a way around this in the future. We have talked about this in the past before we converged the color and texture tool, how to do this. And I think it's similar, like we do it for colors or color tables. Before we also had only 32 slots for colors, and with adding the color tables, we did not increase the slots we have, but we increase the availability. So if we can, or if we manage to add this to the textures as well, you still have 32 slots, but you can say, I make up my own 32 slots and apply it to a build. And same as the colors, you basically can copy the commands and then copy this over to another build as well. So maybe this is a way to handle this with more textures. Currently, we cannot do it. We are at the limit, but as the color tables work for the colors, it might be possible this is also working for textures. Although I need to add that textures are a bit more complicated.
Yeah. No, I get it. Fragalot's asking, to add on that, and I believe the answer to that question. He's asking, why do cargo extenders have limited shapes? And I think it's because you guys have it as a piece of equipment and not a block, right? And so maybe it has less slots.
Yeah, we could make it more. We could add more shapes. We did not. We did choose a certain amount of shapes from the overall shapes. I think there is not really an issue with adding more, but they need to make sense. So we have a lot of shapes that are very faint or thin, or so, or maybe currently added with a new version, these double walls and so on. We would not add this as a shape. So of course, yes, we could add more shapes on it. Yes.
Well, like this one here, would be a really
Yeah.
important one to add, because
Yeah.
you've got
So
every other in
maybe,
that shape group, but that one.
yeah. Yeah, maybe it's just missing. I currently cannot remember if there is a reason why we did not add more shapes, because the shapes of the cargo extenders should work the same as these. So this is the old, even this. So here you see the old menu. This does not use a new system. So if I change something in here, everything would change. So we are a bit more limited on this. Maybe this has been the reason. Not sure if this can be changed to a way like the material or the building blocks are handled, but we can of course add more shapes. So just go to the forum and make a screenshot from the block shapes and say, I want this shape and that shape, and I will pick that up, and we'll see if we can add it.
Yeah, because even some of these cool new blocks that you guys have put out that actually look like they could kind of be like a conveyor chain or something. A lot of these different blocks would be cool, just to kind of have a literal RP value to the cargo.
Yeah, yes, of course. So just as I said, please request it in the forum. It's always even also if you want to see new shapes, which are you badly missing. Also, go to the forums. There are the threads. Give me an idea how the shape should look like best if you build an area and left the shape out, and so I can see what should fit in there. So I can say, okay, this is something we can do or we cannot do.
Yeah, guys, remember, I mean, it's just like the workshop. Pictures are key, right? You just put some on the workshop
Yes,
with no pictures, and nobody's gonna look at it. You put a bunch of pretty
exactly.
pictures, it's gonna attract. They're gonna be like, oh, easy, yeah, okay, that shape, cool, done.
Yeah,
So
exactly. For requesting these shapes, it's important to make it do it with pictures, because I often read, yeah, why can you do it this shape, who is going this and that, and I think, okay, maybe I have totally different idea on what you're talking about, and please do me create me a screenshot or so what you want, because it's, yeah, when working on the last iteration of all the shapes, I learned that two can describe the same and mean different things. So yes, basically it's better to have a picture on this.
yeah.
Yeah, it's office dog.
Office dog isn't messing around.
Yeah,
Very important question. Lord Skyrim wants a disco ball for the dancers.
disco bar.
Yeah,
Okay.
we need a disco ball, man.
Yeah,
That's really important.
when we added the dances for our anniversary version, we already had some assets for real bar. So even I think even pole dances or so, but the quality was that low that we did not add it. So if the modelers have time to do this in the future,
There we go.
I gladly request this. So we have a few locations that resemble bars and so on, and the PAX Purgatory and so on. We need more stuff. I'm pretty agree on this. So yes,
Yeah, it's for immersion. So it's immersion
yes,
purposes.
absolutely.
Definitely. All right. So Crazy Deviant's asking if it's possible, and I've seen this in other games, like even Rust has it to where you can upload texturing and then use it within the game. Now I don't know what's required. I would assume that whoever's playing with that device would have to then have that within their game files, so it'd have to be downloaded with whatever the blueprint is.
That goes towards modding, I think, mostly.
Yeah.
Our modding support is not the highest priority at this point, because we have a lot of plans with the mod API, but the other stuff take too much time at the moment to really dig into the mod API. And I think mostly adding textures, own devices, stuff like that. We explained it quite some time on the forum already as well, that nobody likes if your mod breaks the next patch that we bring out. And since the mod API is a lot of work in progress, the chance that it breaks the next update is very large, is quite high. That kind of stuff will probably be taking on once the game gets in a full release state, when it's finished, to say it like
I
that.
think yes, this is more a question for beta or so. Maybe if you think of it's also and it has different dimension, as it's a bit of legal stuff, so a topic. So simply adding or allowing to add random textures or so, there's a chance that people, I'd say, go too crazy about this. And this, I think, I've seen this in Rust and so on. They have had problems with this, and this would also a problem for us. So I'm not sure if it's technical a problem. Possibly it's currently not possible technically, but the legal element is also something to be considered. Of course, if someone does a mod or so, this and use on its own right, or so, it may be a bit different. But yeah, currently we cannot go into a lot of detail on this, as Taelyn said. The modding elements and API is more towards maybe in beta or so. Because currently, if we do the next big change and everything will break, we should just do not have the resources to make sure everything is backwards compatible, or people are up to recreating their mods. It's already a challenge to achieve that for the workshop, and there's a lot of thoughts going into each feature. If this would break save games, if it would break the workshop and so on, and we want to avoid by all means that to have save game breaks when it's not possible, when it's not necessary. So we could have made some features different or easier if we just said, hey, okay, guys, you need to redo all your stuff and have a save game break. Hey, it just happens in alpha, but we do not want to go this away. So we take some effort to this not happening. And this would be the case on a much larger scale for modding, because it's more complicated to create mods and maintain them than a workshop item or a save game. So yeah, there are a few dimensions that need to be considered before we go into this direction.
Okay, great. Joda's asking, which is another good point. Are blocks ever going to be able to block light?
Block light. Yeah, this is the light is constant. Yeah, it's not ideal. It's I'm not sure. I'm not the tech guy on this. I think it's coming from the Unity lighting engine, and so you cannot have perfect dark rooms or block out light. I do not know if this can be changed on our side. If it can, I think we'll go for it. Maybe at some point it's part of the Unity engine update we constantly do. But currently it's not possible.
Okay. Somebody had asked. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not something like we forget to do or do not want to or too lazy to do. It's it's a really technical issue. And if you know other games who are using the Unity engine, they have the same issue, I'd say.
Right.
The container extensions don't really have a texture limit. It's just when they have the same limit as the other blocks, but when they got created, the extenders, they're basically in box. That is what they need to look like. They're holding your cargo, so we decided to add only textures to it at that point when they got created that make it look like a box and not like something else. There are some general textures available, but that was the biggest reason. Not all they don't have the same textures as the steel blocks.
Yeah, I would just
that
argue
has
that
been made.
some of the shapes, like the little triangles and stuff, it doesn't really blend to that same concept. I understand the thinking of it, but you know what I mean? Like you have the tiny little sliver triangle, that certainly doesn't look like a box. So. But
That's
yeah,
why we added some general textures to it as well, but we didn't add them all.
Right.
Personal drone. Yeah, personal drone is it's also a topic. I think I said it in one of the last QA sessions. It's a topic of the player suit, player boosters, and all that stuff. It's not. Yeah, there has to be some change on that, and the personal drone might change with it as well. Maybe you could think of that the jetpack or the personal drone is more something you put into a slot you have in your suit, and then you can use it or not. I'm not sure if it will increase range or not. Maybe tier 2 version of a drone or so. Yeah, there's more gameplay to be added on this point.
Did we have anything to demonstrate for the flight controller system?
We're not really done with a new statistics overview.
Okay.
Okay, the main thing, maybe you can
well, the one thing that was definitely from a previous Q&A was the F6. So it looks like you guys did change that, which is cool. You added a fourth F6. So there's the first one, which shows all the map tabs and everything, and then you have the second one, which is now the HUD for the flight controller, and then you can get rid of that whole HUD, and then you can further get rid of everything for like screenshot mode or immersion mode or whatever. So that's cool.
The only downside is if you move up and down, you cannot go just one step back. You need to cycle through, but I think that it's not that problematic because you can click F6 quite fast. So
yeah, I think I don't think that's a big deal. Yeah.
the HUD may change a little bit still. If you go into third person, you do not have the center, these elevation lines anymore. Oh, we know they added it back as I say it. Oh, it's but maybe there will be a change that you don't have these lines, or in addition, like the numbers,
Right.
which give you the elevation and the tilt in
Yeah.
maybe on the lower right or left. I'm not sure how you people think about if it's too obtrusive or so. We've reduced the yes, color elements a bit and dialed it back a bit. Yeah, Moxa. I basically personally like these lines as well because I'm coming from flight simulators and space games who all had this, and I'm coming currently from Star Citizen and other games which I'm pretty much used to these. So,
No, totally.
but
I like it.
the problem is that on third person, these lines do not line up perfectly. So, yeah, it's a little bit of work to do.
No, yeah, no, because I think this definitely is going to motivate people to want to do more first-person builds. Because a lot of people fly in third person. A lot of people, especially with tanks and stuff, but with the immersion factor of the new flight controller system, I think it definitely will encourage people to use the first person. I guess something that I plugged in before in a Q&A was the ability to have signal logic built within the your belt, your toolbar. So like piloting stuff, like the ability to turn on and off things and open and close things, from the belt instead of having to literally go to the P menu and click on these things.
Yeah, this also is a topic. We have these custom rows and signals in the control panel, and we might think of a way to add this partially to the pilot toolbar. Yeah, it's
because that's a huge immersion thing. Like that would just make piloting so much more fun if you were able to toggle things on and off, and even if it's just with the signal logic, because the signal logic is actually capable of doing a lot of really cool things. It would just be cool if you could then just say signal 1 to number 9, signal 2 to number 8, whatever, right? And then boom, just be able to do that.
The challenge is how to the UI or how to move these signals or stuff to the toolbar and how to anchor them there and how this should work. So as we have this already in this game, I think it's not the technical challenge to have this because we have already the signals and everything in the control panel. It's more like how is this move between the toolbar or the pilot toolbar? It's not the player toolbar; it's a pilot toolbar, and the configuration area. So I think this needs to be solved, and then it's possibly not that big of an issue or a challenge then. But yeah, as always, it's a time thing.
Yeah, Jonathan here is asking about cameras, which would build onto the usefulness of LCD screens, and I think that's something you guys talked about before too, right?
Yeah, cameras are planned. What's not possible is to have live feed on a display. This at least not for the start. This is quite complicated to implement, and but cameras itself, we've already made some models for these.
Okay, so then what would be the usefulness of the camera if it didn't do live feed?
You could look through them and have an additional view on areas where you cannot look. You can, as we plan it, as when you are in the pilot seat, you put a camera on the bottom and you have a better
Oh,
view
okay.
Going.
Yeah, I wasn't being facetious. Yeah, it was just okay. So you just mean the LCD can't project that live feed is what you were saying you can't do. Okay, I understand. Okay, cool.
At least I think we cannot. It's I have not seen this or we have not talked into this, but I know it from other games that this is not something you do easily on a block-based game.
Okay.
It's possibly also a real performance question then. Yes, the HUD, center HUD will be, or the HUD itself is planned to be, you should be able to color it. It's a feature we had when we started with it, but since then the HUD has changed in some ways, so it does not work anymore, but we will bring this back.
You're referring to the compass?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
The
The
whole
HUD,
flight HUD. The
the
whole
whole
flight
flight
HUD.
HUD.
You could change the color, but the command that you used is tied to an old command what we used for testing the HUD when players didn't had it yet, when the experimental was out yet, and that whole command doesn't work in multiplayer, and the whole command from that is not needed anymore since it is activated now all anyway, but it was the way to activate it and test it in the past. So that command needs to be separated from the main command, and then you can change the HUD again. But those are like small changes that we have no time for at the moment. But we will change it again, that you can change the color.
It's planned to re-add this. So we had this, and everyone found it cool, and so I think recoloring the whole UI for the pilot is will be in. That's okay.
All right. So I mean, with with us now going to Alpha 11, what's the what's kind of the future projection that you guys have as far as the as far as Alpha 11 in itself and plans beyond that? Do you have anything to share with that, or?
So everyone knows what's in Alpha 11. I think we've talked 1.5 hours about this now.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean to go over. I just mean
okay.
release
So,
and that kind of thing.
The plans for Alpha 11 are basically we will further dive into the feedback for CPU until Alpha 12 maybe. I could think that Alpha 12 might see the implementation of multisolar as a feature, and possibly this will then be all around this. So maybe how to set it up, how to fill it with content. Beyond that, research is one of the next bigger technical changes, so gameplay changes, I'd say. We have talked about this for quite a while ago, and I think this will be picked up soon. I'm not sure for Alpha 12, but could be. Beyond that, yeah, it's not really set in stone what we plan beyond that, because we are picking two big features, and then we investigate what is evolving around it. So research will need a few new UIs, new models, new items, new mechanics, and so on. So even if we say it's only two big features, there are a slew of other changes coming with this, like you see with CPU. System has brought the same to same docking now, a new flight controller, and so it converges in Alpha 12 maybe for around the research and maybe the solar system, the multi-solar system.
Yeah, I think I totally misworded my question, but that's a good question too. No, I think what I more meant was, now that we know we have Alpha 11 here, when is, do you guys have a day that you're going to announce as far as the release of this new experimental, or, and then eventually stable? Yeah.
Okay, yes.
But cool, that's good too. Thanks.
Yes, okay. Yeah, so for now, we plan to have the release candidate for Alpha 11 on Thursday, if nothing goes wrong. And we plan to release next week on Monday or so to the public. This is the current plan. So we had this in the past, but I think we are on a good track. And we need to get this out to more people, more players, to get even more feedback. So, and there are a few changes in the Alpha 11 we do not want to delay any further. So I think with all the feedback taken into account, this is going live to public next week. And those who want to test it, the release candidate is going live on, basically on Thursday it's planned. And maybe it's Friday. But
yeah, and that's huge, guys. The more people that test this, the more people that jump into that release candidate and actually play it and build in it, so that we can get any of the little issues or bugs or problems that weren't seen, and if that feedback can get put into the discords and the forums, so that on Monday, they can then review all that stuff and really implement it and get out a proper public release. And what's great about that is then we have this 3 to 4 week time before the holidays to where this can settle, the paint can dry and everything. And I think it'll be a great holiday in comparison to
I think on the road to holidays there will be at least 11.1, so addressing a few issues and so on. So we can take more feedback into account. But going live to public is also a point where I think we said it when we started, is that then this goes to the servers, and single player is often tested in experimental, but things tend to break more frequently in multiplayer. And this is something we need to work for, and this will be something that is part of the 11.1 then possibly. So though this is an important step, and we want to make it ahead of the holiday, so we could fix it until or before the holiday.
Awesome, that is great. I love it. And I just want to give a special thanks to everybody in the community, not just my community, but Empyrion as a whole for I think this is probably the most feedback and the most hands-on of an experimental that we've probably seen to date. And I just think it's putting Empyrion in a better path and in a better direction, and we're actually getting a really good update this time. All things considered, especially with something so big being implemented, I think this has gone a lot smoother than it could have been if certain things weren't done. And part of it is Taelyn, Hummel, you guys coming out behind the curtain and directly conversating with the community and getting this feedback without a middleman. I think is a big deal. So I definitely hats off to you guys, and as well as the community.
Thanks a lot. It's very enjoyable to talk about this in live stream, have the direct feedback, and being able to address all the questions that are coming up. So
next time donuts though, but
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, anything in closing? You guys have anything else to add, or I think we're I think that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. Maybe one last word again to have it more pronounced. Please make use of the forum. Send us your feedback. Please be a little bit on the spot. So maybe add a description, add a picture, or refrain from too much discussion over things. Currently, at the current state, most feedback this is about a certain issue or a fact or a feature is more helpful than longer discussions. So I'm pretty much okay with having long discussion. I read it, but to forward feedback to the developers, it needs to be on the spot currently. So we can dive into these discussions about after we've gone live with Alpha 11 and going towards Alpha 11.1 or Alpha 12. Currently, thanks a lot for all your feedback and all your suggestions and all your critics and whatever. Thanks a lot.
Awesome, guys. Well, that's gonna do it for this developer Q&A. Again, special thanks to our special guests Hummel and Taelyn. And yeah, thanks to everybody that participated. Thanks for all the questions and feedback. And stay tuned for information on the Discord and the forums as the experimental gets released, the release candidate, and eventually the stable projected for next week. So until next time, my name's Excalibur, and yeah, thanks for being here in the Anvil. Appreciate you guys. Take care.
Bye.
See you.